Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about why you should take and practice complex forgings with clay first. So this is a pretty simple technique that's been known about for, well, many a decades before I ever existed, is that clay can be a nice stand-in for hot steel with the added benefit that you can hold it with your hands and it does not have a working limit. That means you can work and practice on this and figure out complex forms in clay first before you take and have the time crunch of being in the forge and having hot metal to take and do this. Where it comes really in handy is practicing things like forge welds, different scarf welds, drop the tong welds, kind of things like that, and getting your scarves lined up, stuff like that. So we'll get into that here in just a second. Let me bring you in just a little closer to the camera and we will show you what we're talking about here. So the clay here is pretty simple. I've just got a wad of clay, and now this isn't any ordinary clay. This is actually called Plasticine, or it's like a Plasticine clay, and so therefore it will never harden up. It won't like air harden. It will to a degree. It might dry out, but it won't air harden, and you can't harden this by baking it in an oven. Again, it's called Plasticine, and it's a special type of clay. I'll put a link to a very similar brand if I can't find this particular brand itself in the description down below. Be aware that is an affiliate link, so it goes to help support the channel at no additional cost to you, just for sending people over to Amazon. So if you want to just read up on it, it's still a great valid link to go check out. Anyhow, so let's get right into it. I'm going to show you what I mean. First, we need to go ahead and resize this material here. Of course, you could just use your hands and fingers and stuff and work it out, but the point of this is to take and showcase forging progression. This is another great way of correcting bad habits that you may have, as far as maybe not understanding the process between feeding or drawing through a die. So there's several differences to that and why certain things take place. The clay acts very similar to what forging is going to do. You can also check out hammer profile shapes that are going to work for certain processes a lot better and more accurately doing clay like this than when you get to steel. So you can verify that those hammer shapes are what you're wanting for that particular process. So there we go. We've got this basically all hammered out here. Just working it down. Want to get it roughly square. Again, this is just good practice as well for you to do what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and illustrate one thing here. So you will hear it said quite often that when you forge weld something, you want to keep as narrow or as short of a scarf as possible. And the reason for that being, we'll show that here in just a second. So let me cut this off. We're going to cut this off, and it'll cut just like steel too. There we go. So you can see that that's a very similar result to what you would have in regular steel. Get the hardy off of your anvil here if you can. But now we can go through the process of making a scarf. So we're going to go to the near edge, to the far edge of the anvil. Put a little bevel on it. Then we're going to come to the near edge. We're going to hammer that bevel down to create a step or a shoulder. And then we're going to dress the toe of the scarf. Now this is very much a Mark Aspery method. And you can see that toe's getting a little long there. But again, just keep it short. It's not too long for the size of the bar stock. And we're going to do the same for the other one. So you guys can work out how this is going to work out for you long before you ever even do it. See, I haven't fired up the forge yet. I haven't started the forge weld process. I'm still educating myself on what that process should look like. And that's a little bit of extra cleanup work there just because I'm a Nancy like that. So now you can see the relation using clay of how that needs to happen. So those won't fit up. So how we're going to get those to fit, maybe we're going to give it a little reverse bend on each one of these. And now they're coming a little closer together. Maybe we'll go ahead and take that scarf out a little bit so it fits a little closer. And there we have it. We're just going to kind of mush it together a little bit like that. So you guys can see how that relation is, how those steps hit each other. If one step's not deep enough, you can always deepen it up. And then that way it looks about right. But you want these to fit generally good. Now this isn't a forge welding demonstration clearly, but I'm just showing you the value of doing this. So now if you're doing your lap weld, basic lap weld, or what most people refer to as a drop the tongs weld, now you can practice getting your orientation and hitting your marks without ever having a piece of steel in your hands. You can practice this process in making a weld. But we're going to show you why you don't want really long toes on your scarf. So we're going to lap these over just like as if we were bringing it out of the fire, and we're going to weld it together. We find them. Your first blow will be a setting blow on top, and then the toe, and then you're going to have to, the clay does stick, flip it over and work the other toe in, working to the opposite end. And then the sides of the scarf, and then the tops, and you're going to resize the bar back to its original parent bar thickness. So we're going to go ahead and do that all the way through this piece. I want you guys to pay attention to this line, what's happening here. It's going, the line is stretching as we go along here. So this is why we want a really short scarf if we can, because as we hammer out this bar stock to resize it and we get rid of that additional mass that we had from the weld, that toe of that scarf is elongating. The whole weld line is elongating. And so before I hammer it all completely out, hopefully you can see how long this line is now of where the welded area is when we started off with a relatively short plane. So this is a great way, again, using clay, you can look at this and on these details and then understand what's going on or what's potentially failing on another piece, right? So say you have something and it's always failing, the weld is always popping loose, or you're always getting a bit of a toe or something, and you're trying to eliminate that. You can practice this with clay and it will be very, very similar. Now, what would happen if we twist this? Well, if we twist this, leaving an edge like this, most likely, if we twist it like bar stock, that's going to open up because you put the weld in a shear plane. So that's probably not something that you would want to do on a welded joint. You won't want to make a weld where you need to take and put a twist in a bar stock because it's going to open up, or you're putting undue stress on your welded toes of your scarf in a shear plane. It's creating a shear plane. But again, we figured that out with clay long before we had to go to our project. Another fun little fact, fun little trick, very common to take and do, say, forge welding, right, for Damascus, and twist Damascus is an interesting pattern. So you can twist up a rod of clay, lay out another rod of clay, or do thin strips of different colored clay, and then you can practice that layering effect. And then you can bend it around, and then you can see how those layers are going to work together as you hammer this back into, say, a solid billet. It's going to be very similar to what is exactly going to happen in the steel. And the reason for this is because the physics are all the same. So again, if you have like one side of this you paint with a marker or something before you get going, and you make that like your 15N20 layer or something of that nature, you can showcase very quickly how those swirls and stuff are going to relate and translate out when you grind down into the billet. You will be able to see how that will actually end up coming out looking. So anyways, that's it for today. I hope that this was interesting to you. Again, the link for this would be this particular Plasticine will be in the description down below. Of course, you can always find them at your local like Hobby Lobby or something like that. Whatever hobby or craft store you have in your local area, I'm sure they have some Plasticine, so you may want to check there first if it's inconvenient to get online and look for it. But yeah, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, God bless you, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.